George, Mr. President, dear guests, dear members, of course, to address the first row full of trade union leaders from the EU member states and ETUC is quite a challenge, but I think it makes me a bit excited too. So, really the reason for us today is to celebrate the appointment of George. And I have been privileged to work with George for the last 12 years. And he's a member who has been always very committed to our house and who's been always committed to his beliefs. And of course, even though sometimes we have quite different views on how things should be done, nevertheless, I have to express my deep appreciation for his consistency, integrity, and high values that he's been always bringing to the committee. So, George, good luck with your presidency. But of course, what I will say here briefly, because I was asked to speak between 3 and 5 minutes, so I'll take a good 5 minutes to speak to you right now, is not going to be a surprise to you, because employers in the European Union have a very key role to play, and this cannot be denied, I guess, by anybody. So our priorities are very straightforward. It's about growth, about jobs, and about competitiveness. And to take any of the three away means that the whole structure of thinking about how we can overcome current situation will not be complete. But we also have to make ourselves clear and kind of honest that we have to make good use of resources that we have at the disposal. EU is going through the period where budgetary resources are not as available as a few years ago. We also have to make clear that we have to make use of these resources according to the purpose that we decided to use them. We have to be consistent, and we cannot spend the money that we do not have. So, wealth, security, safety for the citizens, that is primarily about jobs. And jobs are created by companies, by businesses. Jobs are created by entrepreneurs. These jobs are sustainable, so we need to make sure and we need to make everything to support this process by the companies. But we need also good, solid growth based on solid macroeconomic assumptions and policies. Our policies must be predictable, long-term, and must be cohesive. Europe has many assets that we can build on our future, and let me just mention 3 of them, which I believe are of key importance. It's about the internal market, it's about better regulation, and it's about trade. The internal market is the heart of the EU integration, no doubt about that. 4 freedoms that we decided to share should be respected. There is too many attempts right now for various causes under different names to violate those freedoms. We cannot confuse lack of competition with social dumping. We cannot confuse protectionism with whatever defense of some kind of rights. Either protectionism and fragmentation or EU integration and collaboration. I will always support the second one instead of the first one. And we also have to be really serious about implementing the single market, because single market became a little bit of a highlight, but when we talk about real issues, you can see more and more practices, more and more attempts to decompose single market, not to mention the Services Directive. But if we look forward, things like digital market, things like Industry 4.0, these are new challenges for us. We have to think open, we have to think forward, and not to focus only on defending our current positions. Better regulation, let me quote our own opinion. We said that better smart regulation is a common task for all the European institutions and the member states. That is very true. But for employers, better regulations means smarter regulation, means more clear regulation, and sometimes, if not necessary, means no new regulation. I think we have to be very pragmatic on that as well. Sticking to values that we all share, that's of course out of any question. Trade, we have to support European companies. We have to give them opportunity to grow, and the vast majority of growth potential nowadays is outside of Europe. That's why we have to support ongoing negotiations. whether this is TTIP, whether this is ratification of CETA, whether these are different FTAs, being Japan, these are the ways forward that we should support. Social dimension, I think this could not be avoided by me. We had a very interesting debate, another one in this House, 2.5 years ago. And social dimension, what is social dimension? First of all, is work. We have to be able to provide work to our citizens, then we'll be able to deliver to them safety and wealth. So creating jobs should be the first priority. Secondly, we have to implement rules and regulations we have put into place. There are many of them which are not implemented across the European Union, and that's a very major mistake. Thirdly, we have to admit that we have the highest labor standards in the world, by far, very well, and we have to respect that if we talk further any changes. About the EESC, before I conclude, I think we want to be a relevant part of discussion in the European Union. And I'd like very much endorse effort taken by Luca Jaillet already and his work on future setup of institutional dimension of the European Union and AFCO committee work in this House. We must be a very active part of this work. We have to also improve quality of our work. I'd like to mention here the name of one of our members who's been working on this for many, many years, who's not here with us today, but another Greek colleague, Anna Bredima, has done a terrific job trying to show us where to go. Dear friends, dear George, EU is a great project, perhaps the best for Europe ever. I come from the country which has experienced a lot of difficulties because of lack of cooperation, because of difficulties of differences of opinions that ended up in a very dramatic developments. But we cannot take Europe for granted. None of us can take it for granted. Today, Europe has to regain credibility. On one hand, Europe is being challenged because of quite difficult circumstances, economic, social, refugee crisis. There are many major difficulties we go through. But also, at the same time, we have a problem to prove that Europe, EU, can actually deliver. We have had a lot of very important projects, policies, macro policies, and we have been very successful, failing too many of them. That's why to have a pragmatic, solid, implementation-oriented focus of this House would be, in my opinion, of high importance. We should try to change the culture of EU from too much talking to far much more doing. At the EU level, at the member state level, of course, with all the respect for what member states have the role to play here. And last but not least, the EESC should be also an institution that not only tries to convince EU citizens to the EU as an idea, and I'm a deep believer in the EU, I couldn't be anymore, but we also have to explain EU to the people. That should be also our role. What is the EU all about? And even though we take it for granted, even in old, so-called old member states, this should not be taken for granted. We have a huge work, huge task to communicate EU, not from the perspective of the labor, of employers or third sector, from the EU as a structure that is supposed to unify people, that is supposed to teach them how to work together, how to mediate, and how to look for the better future. George, good luck, and thank you very much.